Okay, good evening. Welcome to tonight's shir. So I realized that I hadn't actually finished off the last shir related to making Friday into Erev Shabbos, and therefore we just want to finish off and talk about two aspects of tasting food on Erev Shabbos. We've spoken about different aspects of it in previous weeks, but there's one that, well, there are two aspects we haven't quite spoken about, and that is what brachos, if you taste the food, do you make brachos on tasting food? You just want to have a little taste to put on your tongue just to see if the chicken soup or the chulent or whatever is good. You make a bracha on it, number one. And number two, do you have to wait after you have something? So you want to have a coffee before Shabbos, but you want to taste the chicken soup before that. How does that work? So that's what we'll explore tonight, Mr. Hashem. So if you take a look at the last page, this is the final page on the handout. If you're listening online, please email me at j.golker@gmail.com and I'll send you the handout. The starting point is a Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch says in Orach Chaim, Siman Reish Yud Sif Beis, Hatoyem es hatavshil. The Mechaber brings two opinions. The first opinion is someone who tastes some food, ein tzorich levarich ad revius. If he has a small amount ad revius, he does not actually need to make a bracha. Va'afilu imhu boiloi. Even if he swallows the food, he doesn't need to make a bracha. That's the first opinion. V'yesh omrim, a second opinion, she'im hu boiloi ta'on bracha. But if he swallows it, he does need a bracha. V'loi patre es atoyim ela k'shechazu apoileit. They only exempt a person from making a bracha if he spits out that food. V'oz afidu al harbe netzorech bracha. And even then, if he spits out, he can taste quite a bit. But if he spits it out, then he wouldn't need a bracha. Okay, so two opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. Number one is you don't need to make a bracha, even if you swallow the food. And the second opinion is that if you swallow it, you do need to make a bracha. What do we do? Says the Ramah, Hagav v'sofik brachas lahakel. That if you're in doubt, sofik brachas lahakel, we always err on the side of caution. That's what the Ramah says. Now, let's look at the Mishnah Berurah just to get some detail on all of the above. Sahatoy. So says the Mishnah Berurah on the first opinion that brought in the Shulchan Aruch, that ein tzarich levarich, you don't need to make a bracha even if you swallow it. Because even though you're not allowed to get benefit from this world below bracha without making a bracha, afilu kolshu, even a small amount. So you can have the tiniest amount of food, you still need to ordinarily make a bracha. Bein ba'achila, bein b'shtia, whether you're eating, whether you're drinking. So how come the first opinion of the Shulchan Aruch is ein tzarich levarich? Hainu, that is k'shmechaven le'achol v'lishtais. That's when you intend to eat or to drink. So if you intend to have even a small amount, you need to make a bracha. Avol hacha, but here when you're merely tasting, she'ein kavnos ela litoim leida im tzarech melach itavlin, to know whether or not this food needs some salt or some spices, ein tzarech bracha lo lefanev lo lachareha. So that's the explanation of the Shulchan Aruch, of the first opinion, that you would not need to make a bracha before and certainly afterwards. That's the first opinion. Then v'yesh omrim, that if you swallow it, you do need to make a bracha. Says the Mishnah Berurah in Sif Katan Tez Zayin, afilu b'kolshu, even if you have a small amount which you swallow, kiven sheyesh lo hinas me'ov, because at the end of the day you're getting benefit. If you're swallowing the food, there's hanas me'ov, your stomach is sort of feeling a little bit fuller, and therefore you would need to make a bracha. And unless, said the second opinion, that you actually spit it out. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Yud Zayin, k'shechayzel pilot, the bezeh hitiru k'shekanos rak l'ti'ima ba'alma. Because if it's for just a taste, kiven she'ein rak hanos hacheich, there's only sort of a little benefit on your throat, on your palate. Me'atav sheshatom ha'meichel shelas va'osin shenoistim esev shekorin tabak. Interesting, a related halacha. Those people, and again, the Mishnah Berurah is writing 100 years ago, so those people who put esev shekorin tabak. Right, that's tobacco. L'toich shveferes, they put it in some form of pipe or a cigarette. Umadlikin oisev v'shavin ha'oshin b'fihem, and he's describing smoking. They put it in some sort of tube and they smoke and they put it, they set it alight and they smoke and they try and they whatever smoking is. But nistapik hamogen avram b'zeh you have a katoyim or polet. Is that considered swallowing it or not? How do you define that? And the Achronim conclude that you do not make a bracha on smoking. Interestingly, it's inhaling, but it's not considered ingesting it in any way. It's nothing of substance. Separately, in another sefer, the Chavetz Chaim writes in Zechor LeMiriam, he talks, it's astonishing really, because he writes this 100 years ago. The Chavetz Chaim died in 1933. And the Mishnah Berurah was written, I think from 1908 to whatever it was, for over a period of many years. But this is 100 plus years. I don't know when Zechor LeMiriam was written, but he writes there that aside from the health concerns, which in those days was very unknown, aside from the health concerns, there's other concerns of Bittul Torah. And I think he's referring to a stam, if you're standing outside the Beis Medrash smoking, that's Bittul Torah. But also, going to the store to buy the cigarettes, or I think he describes the rolling of the cigarettes. It's quite a business that you've got to take a little bit of paper and you put the tobacco. It's quite a filthy business. But you see people rolling their cigarettes. He said it's Bittul Torah. So anyway, that's just an aside. So either way, you don't make a bracha on smoking. Now, next one, Sif Yudches. If you just taste it for a child, you want to just see if it's too hot or whatever, then you don't need the bracha. Now, the Ramah concludes, V'sofik brachas lahakel. Says the Mishnah Berurah on that, Hainu ba'afilu im hubolea lo yivarich kim she'en kavnos lachila. And sofik brachas you are makel, and therefore, although there are two opinions in the Shulchan Aruch whether you make a bracha or not, sofik brachas lahakel, you are lenient and therefore you do not make a bracha on tasting food, kim she'en kavnos lachila, because you're not really intending to eat it. For Kisvar HaRishayna, like the first opinion, is not to make a bracha at all. V'hinei, HaMagen Avraham chelek ala Shulchan Aruch, the Magen Avraham actually argues with the Shulchan Aruch, v'haramah, v'svir lei, and the Magen Avraham says, the bebelei lekul am chayav levarich. If you swallow the food, then for sure you need to make a bracha. Aval kam achronim ichlitu in psak haramah. However, many achronim concur with the Ramah, to sofik bracha, it's a sofik, v'lo yivarich lechatchila, v'lo yivarich, comma. The best eitzah is, and this applies to our Erev Shabbos situation, and that is that a person lechatchila should have in mind that he's going to swallow the food, and I'm going to get enjoyment out of it. So I'm going to put my spoon into the chulent, and I'm going to get some sort of hana from this spoon of food, and if I'm going to get hana, then then for sure you need to make a bracha. So, in short, do you need to make a bracha according to the Mishnah Berurah, according to the Shulchan Aruch? The Shulchan Aruch presents two opinions. The Ramah says sofik brachas lahakel, and therefore we would not make a bracha. However, lechatchila, the Mishnah Berurah says, have intention to enjoy the food, to enjoy your spoon of chicken soup or chulent or whatever you're eating, and then you would need to make a bracha. In addition to that, the Kaf HaChaim in the next box says, hatoemes hatav shel be'erev Shabbos mishum tameh chaim zochu. If your intention is to fulfill the mitzvah of Ta'ameh HaChaim Zochu, which we've spoken about in previous weeks, that's one of the inyanim to eat the food on Erev Shabbos, to check that it's spicy and tasty, and it's part of Oneg Shabbos, and to avoid Shalom Bayis problems, and to avoid Chilul Shabbos problems, and all the reasons we've given in previous Shurim. Kosav HaKaf HaChaim, Shechayev Levorich, Shaharivata Mischavin Lechel. If you're doing this in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Toya Meho Chaim Zochu, then he said for sure you're going to make a bracha because your kavana is to eat it. Then you would need to make a bracha. So the best suggestion is to actually intend to get some sort of hana, and then you would make a bracha. Okay, what about waiting? Are you allowed a milchik coffee after you've tasted a bit of the chicken soup? So the halacha in Shulchan Aruch in Siman Pei Tes, this is in Yeridea, the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber says, Haloyes letinoik sorech lahamtin. If you chew food for a child, you want to sort of liquidize it, so you take a bit of meat and you chew it and you soften it up and then you can give it to the child, sorech lahamtin. You need to wait. You are fleshik, you are meaty, and therefore you need to wait. Says the Darkei Tshuva, miu. That's only if you actually chew it. You're grinding it and you're chewing it. You're making it into smaller or more liquidy. But if you don't chew it, you merely put it on your tongue to see if it's too hot, or you can tell if it's too spicy or whatever. Or polat miyad, and then you spit it out straight away. Then ein tzarech lahamtin l'kul ha'am. Then you wouldn't need to wait. However, says the Aruch HaShulchan, V'da, in the next line, Demisha toem tavshel shabos, if someone eats some fleishik, some meaty food, V'adai ein klum, ve'ein tzorech lahamdin, as per the Darkei Tshuva, or mikol makom kinuach v'hadocha tzorech. you would need to just wipe your mouth out and to have a rinse. So for example, you take a cracker and you take a glass of water, a glass of orange juice or something, and then you're good to go. So just to summarize, when it comes to brachas on food, there's 2 days in the Shulchan Aruch. The Ramah says Sofik brachas lahakal, not to make a bracha. However, the Mishnah Berurah says the best solution is to have kavana, to have hana, and then l'kula alma you would make a bracha, especially in light of that kaf hachaim. What about waiting? Do you become meaty? So the Shulchan Aruch says that if you properly chew the food, then you would become meaty. And if, however, you merely put it on your tongue, then you don't. But as the Aruch HaShulchan says, you would need to do kinuch and adacha. So after you've tasted the chicken soup and you just put it on your tongue and you just spit it out, then all you would need to do is to have a cracker or something and a glass of water or any other liquid, and then you would be able to have milchik straight away. Just one final point, and that is, I put at the bottom there, turning Friday into Erev Shabbos. That was sort of the title of this sort of mini-series. And just a few eitzes. That Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky famously says that Jews of the early 20th century, when they came from Eastern Europe to America, their battle was Shabbos. They're gonna lose. People would lose their jobs from week to week. If you're not here tomorrow morning, then don't bother coming back on Monday morning. And that was a tremendous nisayon that we can't really identify with. But Rabbi Yaakov famously says that the challenge nowadays is not so much Shabbos, but is Erev Shabbos. Because life has become so hectic, we rush home just a few minutes before Shabbos, we jump in the shower, we rush to shul. But Erev Shabbos is a very special time. And to feel the Shabbos and to anticipate it, it's Shomer Shabbos. Shomer Shabbos can also mean, as opposed to not only just keeping Shabbos, but to anticipate Shabbos. V'oviv Shomar es Hadovo. And there are different ways of doing it. So one is just very strategic, to just plan early. And that is, you've got errands to do Friday, try and do them on Thursday, the dry cleaning and the picking up and the cooking and the errands and whatever it may be. And other aspects is little things, an Erev Shabbos playlist. To have nice music in the house on Erev Shabbos, that works. Undertaking going to for a man to go to the mikveh Erev Shabbos, learning half an hour before Shabbos, to sit down with a coffee and to Shnai Mikra, to Halacha, Divrei Torah for Shabbos, the Ul Parsha app, whatever it may be. But getting into the feeling of Shabbos and turning Friday into Erev Shabbos is something which is a challenge for our generation, but it's something which is highly rewarding. Okay, we'll leave it there.